You've been lied to. Betrayal isn't about them, it's about you. And until you see the truth, it'll keep happening. Let's fix that. Betrayal cuts deep. A friend stabs you in the back. A partner cheats. A co-worker steals credit. And every time you ask, why me? But what if the answer isn't about them? What if the real reason people betray you has been hiding inside you this whole time? Today, we're digging into the real psychology behind betrayal. Not the surface-level excuses, but the unconscious patterns that make you a target. And more importantly, how to stop it for good. We've all been there. You trust someone, give them your loyalty, and then boom, they turn on you. And society tells you they're just a bad person. But that's a lie, because if betrayal was only about the other person, why does it keep happening to you? The hard truth. Betrayal is a mirror. It reflects something you don't see yet, something in your own mind, your choices, or the way you move through the world. And until you face it, the cycle won't stop. 1. You ignore the red flags. There's a voice inside you that knows. It's not loud, not aggressive, just a quiet whisper in the back of your mind, a sinking feeling in your stomach when something isn't right. That moment they told a small lie for no reason. The way their eyes shifted when they said, "Trust me." The jokes that weren't really jokes, the subtle put-downs disguised as concern. You noticed, but you brushed it off, because the truth was uncomfortable and you needed to believe the best. This is how betrayal begins. Not with a dramatic act of cruelty, but with tiny fractures in trust that you choose to overlook. And here's the painful part. You're not innocent in this. Not because you deserved what happened, but because you trained them to think they could get away with it. Every time you swallowed your discomfort, every time you made excuses for their behavior, you sent a silent message. I'll accept this. People reveal themselves early. The coworker who takes credit for your ideas. They showed you who they were the first time they forgot to mention your help. The friend who disappears when you need them. They've always been inconsistent. You just pretended not to see it. The partner who cheated. There were signs, flirting they brushed off as harmless, secrecy they called privacy. You saw the cracks, but you didn't want to believe the whole foundation was weak. Why do we do this? Because facing the truth means facing loss. It means admitting the person you thought they were doesn't exist. It means being alone, even if just for a while. And so we bargain. Maybe I'm overreacting. They didn't mean it like that. We silence our instincts to keep the illusion intact. But instincts aren't irrational. They're your subconscious connecting dots your conscious mind refuses to see. The fix isn't about becoming paranoid or assuming everyone's out to hurt you. It's about listening to that quiet voice instead of suffocating it. It's about asking, why am I uncomfortable? Instead of, how can I explain this away? The moment you stop making excuses for people is the moment they stop having power over you. Because when someone realizes you see them, truly see them, they either rise to meet you or they leave. And either way, you win. 2. You confuse kindness with weakness. Kindness is not surrender. It's not letting people walk over you, not keeping quiet when they cross a line, not swallowing your anger to keep the peace. Real kindness is strength, the ability to be compassionate without sacrificing yourself. But too often, we get it twisted. We think being good means having no edges, no boundaries, no. And that's exactly why people betray you, because you've taught them there are no consequences. Think about it. When someone disrespects you and you laugh it off, what do they learn? That it's okay. When someone takes advantage of your time and you say, it's fine, what do they hear? Do it again. You think you're being kind, but what you're really doing is handing them a script for how to treat you poorly. And they'll follow it, not because they're evil, but because you allowed it. This isn't about blaming you, it's about recognizing a pattern. The people who hurt you often test you first. They push slightly, just to see how much you'll tolerate. Maybe they cancel plans last minute. Maybe they forget to pay you back. Small things, easy to excuse. But each time you let it slide, the pushes get bigger. Until one day you're wondering how it got this bad, not realizing it was always building, one ignored boundary at a time. The problem isn't that you're too kind. It's that your kindness has no backbone. True goodness doesn't mean letting people do whatever they want. It means having the courage to say, "This isn't okay," even if it makes things uncomfortable. Because here's the secret. People respect boundaries more than they respect people-pleasing. They might not admit it, they might even protest in the moment, but deep down they know. Someone who stands their ground, that's someone they can't manipulate. So how do you change? Start small. The next time someone makes a joke at your expense, don't force a smile. Say, "That didn't land for me." The next time they bail on plans, don't say, "No worries." Say, "This doesn't work for me." You don't have to be cruel, just be clear. Because the moment you show you're not afraid to lose them is the moment they realize they can't afford to lose you. 3. You overshare too soon. There's a hunger in all of us to be known, to tear open our chests and say, "Here, this is me. Do you still want me?" And when we meet someone new, that hunger can make us reckless. We tell them about our past wounds, our deepest fears, the things we've never told anyone else. We mistake intensity for intimacy, vulnerability for trust. But trust isn't something you give, it's something you build. And when you hand it over too soon, you're not being brave, you're being unwise. Think about the last time someone betrayed you. How much did they know about you? Your insecurities, your weak spots, the things that keep you up at night. Now ask yourself, did they earn that knowledge, or did I just hand it to them? Because information is power, and when you share too much too soon, you're giving them power they haven't proven they'll use wisely. This isn't about closing yourself off, it's about pacing. Real trust is built in layers, small disclosures over time, matched by the other person's actions. When someone shows you through their behavior that they're safe, when they keep their word, when they respect your boundaries, when they don't use your words against you, then you go deeper. But if you skip those steps, if you pour your soul out to someone who's still practically a stranger, you're not creating connection. You're creating risk. And here's the hard truth. Not everyone wants the real you. Some people just want the version of you they can use. The oversharer? They're a goldmine for manipulators. Tell someone your fears and they'll know exactly how to scare you. Tell them your insecurities and they'll know where to poke. It's not fair, but it's how human nature works. Some people will take what you give them and twist it. So how do you protect yourself? Slow down. Let trust be a response, not an opening move. Watch how they treat others. Notice if they gossip, if they break small promises, if they push for information you're not ready to share. The right people won't rush you. They'll earn your stories one honest moment at a time, because the strongest bonds aren't built on secrets spilled. They're built on time, consistency, and the quiet certainty that this person deserves to know you. 4. You need them more than they need you. There's an uncomfortable truth about human relationships that most people never want to face. Neediness repels while self-containment attracts. When you find yourself clinging to a person, a position, or a situation out of fear rather than genuine desire, you're not just compromising your dignity, you're broadcasting a signal that others can't help but respond to. It's not that people are inherently cruel, but that human nature instinctively recognizes and reacts to power imbalances. The more desperately you hold on, the more others sense your dependence, and the more the dynamic shifts against you. This plays out in nearly every area of life. The employee who can't afford to lose their job tolerates disrespect. The partner terrified of being alone overlooks infidelity. The friend who has no other social circle accepts constant mistreatment. In each case, the common denominator isn't the other person's malice, it's your own silent declaration that you have no better options. What makes this particularly painful is that the neediness often comes from genuine care. You might truly value the relationship or opportunity, but when that care crosses into dependency, it paradoxically destroys the very thing you're trying to preserve. The solution isn't to become cold or calculating, but to cultivate what could be called inner alternatives. This means developing the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you could walk away if you had to. Not that you want to, not that you're threatening to, but that you maintain enough self-respect and options that you're choosing to stay, rather than being forced to stay. This subtle shift changes everything in how others perceive and treat you. Suddenly, your presence becomes a gift rather than a given. Your loyalty becomes valuable rather than expected. This principle extends beyond personal relationships into all forms of human interaction. The business owner who desperately needs one big client gets taken advantage of. The artist who craves validation from a particular audience compromises their vision. In every case, the antidote is the same. Develop enough internal and external resources that you engage from a place of wholeness rather than lack. This doesn't guarantee you'll never experience betrayal, but it does ensure you'll never be its helpless victim. 5. You don't value yourself. How you treat yourself sets the standard for how others will treat you. This isn't some new age platitude. It's a psychological reality that plays out in countless subtle interactions every day. When you constantly apologize for taking up space, when you rush to accommodate others while neglecting your own needs, when you act as though your time and energy are infinitely available, you're not being kind. You're teaching people how to disregard you. The world takes you at your own estimation, and if that estimation is low, others will follow your lead. Consider the language of your daily actions. The way you automatically say sorry when someone bumps into you. The way you downplay your accomplishments so others won't feel uncomfortable. The way you let people interrupt you or waste your time because you don't want to seem rude. Each of these might seem insignificant in isolation, but together they form a pattern that others unconsciously register. They create what could be called an emotional price tag, the unspoken value you assign yourself in the marketplace of human relationships. And when that price tag reads discount, don't be surprised when people treat you as a bargain. This isn't about becoming arrogant or self-absorbed. True self-value has nothing to do with superiority and everything to do with simple self-respect. It's the quiet understanding that your needs matter as much as anyone else's, that your time is worth protecting, that your boundaries deserve to be honored. Paradoxically, when you start treating yourself this way, others follow suit, not because they've suddenly become more considerate, but because you've stopped giving them permission to be otherwise. The transformation begins with small but significant shifts, noticing when you're about to apologize unnecessarily and staying silent instead. Protecting your calendar as diligently as you would protect a friend's. Speaking about your achievements without downplaying them. These changes feel uncomfortable at first because they go against years of conditioning. But with time, they reshape not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. And that's where real change begins. 6. You refuse to see their shadow. Every person carries within them a duality, the face they present to the world and the shadow they keep hidden, even from themselves. When you idealize someone, when you insist on seeing only their best qualities while ignoring their flaws, you're not loving them. You're creating a fantasy that reality will inevitably shatter. The most painful betrayals often come not from truly evil people, but from ordinary people whose darker sides you refuse to acknowledge until it was too late. This blindness usually stems from our own unmet needs. We see in others what we long for rather than what's actually there. The charismatic friend becomes the confident persona we wish we had. The attentive partner becomes the perfect parent we never had. In projecting these ideals onto people, we do them and ourselves a disservice. We love an illusion rather than a real person and set them up to fail expectations they never agreed to meet. When they inevitably show their human flaws, we feel betrayed, but the real betrayal was our own refusal to see them honestly. Recognizing someone's shadow doesn't mean assuming the worst about them. It means maintaining clear-eyed awareness that everyone has contradictions. The kindest person can be cruel in certain moments. The most honest person can lie when scared. The most loyal person can betray under pressure. This understanding isn't cynical, it's protective. When you accept that people contain multitudes, you're less devastated when their less admirable sides emerge. You can say, yes, this is part of them too, rather than, I thought you were different. The healthiest relationships make space for the whole person, light and shadow alike. You appreciate someone's strengths while being aware of their weaknesses. You enjoy their best qualities while guarding against their worst. This balanced view allows you to engage with people as they actually are, rather than as you wish them to be. It leads to fewer dramatic betrayals because there are fewer unrealistic expectations to betray. And when people do show their shadows, you're prepared rather than shattered. able to respond wisely rather than react painfully. Ultimately, seeing others clearly is an act of respect for them and for yourself. It acknowledges their complexity while protecting your peace. And in that clear-eyed space between illusion and disappointment, real relationships can finally begin. 7. You repeat the same patterns. The faces change, but the story stays the same. Again and again, you find yourself in the same painful situations. The partner who disappears when you need them most, the friend who only reaches out when they want something, the colleague who takes credit for your work. At first, it seems like terrible luck. Then it starts to feel like a curse, but the truth is far more revealing. You're not a victim of circumstance. You're an active participant in your own betrayal. Not because you want to be hurt, but because somewhere deep inside, this pattern serves you. Until you uncover why, you'll keep walking into the same emotional traps, wondering how you ended up here again. There's a hidden comfort in familiar pain. When someone treats you in ways that feel strangely recognizable, even if those ways are hurtful, there's a perverse sense of coming home. This explains why people who grew up with emotionally distant parents often find themselves chasing partners who can't commit. Why those raised by critical caretakers tolerate friends who constantly put them down. The psyche seeks what it knows, not necessarily what's good for it. There's safety in the known, even when the known is painful, because the unknown, true change, requires facing parts of yourself you've spent years avoiding. The people who betray you aren't random villains. They're mirrors reflecting back the unresolved wounds you carry. The narcissist who showers you with attention before disappearing. They're showing you your own hunger for validation. The flaky friend who's never there when you need them. They're revealing your fear of asking for what you truly deserve. Each painful encounter is an opportunity to see yourself more clearly, if you're willing to look beyond the surface hurt. This isn't about blaming yourself for others' actions, but recognizing your role in the dance, the subtle ways you keep inviting the same partners onto the floor. Breaking these cycles requires uncomfortable honesty. You must ask not just why do they do this, but why do I keep allowing this? What familiar ache does this relationship soothe? What childhood wound does it replay? The answers won't come easily. We're remarkably skilled at hiding our deepest motivations from ourselves. But start by noticing the physical sensations that arise when you're mistreated. That sinking feeling in your stomach, that tightness in your chest. These bodily reactions often hold more truth than your rationalizations. They're signals from a wiser part of you that knows this story all too well. Real change begins when you stop expecting different results from the same choices. When you pause before falling for the charming stranger who just gets you immediately. When you question why you're drawn to people who make you prove your worth. This isn't about becoming cynical or closed off, but about developing discernment, the ability to see people as they are, not as you hope they'll be. The healthiest relationships often start slowly, without that intoxicating rush of instant connection. Because they're built on reality rather than projection. They may feel unfamiliar at first, even boring, because they don't trigger your old wounds. But this unfamiliar ground is where real healing begins. 8. You seek external validation. Your worth dangles by a thread, and everyone holds scissors. Each compliment lifts you up, each criticism cuts deep. Your sense of self exists in other people's eyes, how they see you, what they think of you, whether they approve of you. This is why betrayal cuts so deep. It's not just the loss of a relationship, but the collapse of your self-esteem. When your value depends on others' validation, you'll tolerate astonishing mistreatment just to keep that fragile sense of worth intact. The cruel irony? The more desperately you seek approval, the less respect you receive. People instinctively sense when someone's center of gravity lies outside themselves, and the healthiest ones pull away while the manipulators move in. We're taught that needing others is love, but there's a crucial difference between healthy connection and emotional dependency. Real connection comes from two whole people choosing each other. Dependency comes from half people clinging to others to feel complete. When you approach relationships from lack rather than wholeness, you unconsciously train people to treat you poorly. They sense your willingness to bend, to compromise your boundaries, to accept less than you deserve, all to avoid the terrifying prospect of their disapproval. This dynamic creates perfect conditions for betrayal because you've signaled that your primary need isn't mutual respect, but simply not being abandoned. The childhood roots of this run deep. Many of us learned early that love was conditional, that we had to perform, achieve, or behave in certain ways to be worthy of care. As adults, we recreate these dynamics, seeking in others the approval we never reliably received. The boss whose praise we crave becomes the parent whose attention we never got. The partner whose affection feels elusive becomes the caretaker whose love was inconsistent. We don't realize we're replaying old patterns because the players have changed, but the emotional stakes feel eerily familiar. Each betrayal reopens that primal wound. See, I wasn't enough. Breaking this cycle requires what might feel like emotional heresy, learning to disappoint people, to say no when you mean no, to have opinions others might disagree with, to take up space unapologetically. At first, this feels terrifying, like you're risking the very connections you cherish. But a remarkable thing happens when you start showing up as your authentic self. The people who truly matter stay, while those who preferred your compliant facade drift away. The relationships that remain are sturdier, more honest, and far less likely to involve betrayal, because they're based on who you actually are, not who you're pretending to be. The path to genuine self-worth isn't through positive affirmations or achievement checklists. It's through developing what could be called an inner witness, that quiet, observant part of you that can notice your experiences without being consumed by them. This witness doesn't need others to confirm your value because it sees your inherent worth regardless of external opinion. Cultivating this presence takes practice. Moments of pausing before reflexively seeking reassurance, periods of solitude where you learn to be comfortable with just yourself, small acts of self-trust where you honor your own instincts over others' expectations. The ultimate freedom comes when you realize no one's opinion of you can define you unless you let it. The moment you stop needing validation is the moment you become invulnerable to betrayal. Not because people stop letting you down, but because their actions no longer shake your foundation. You'll still feel disappointment when someone breaks trust, but it won't devastate you because your sense of self doesn't live in their hands anymore. You'll discover that the most solid ground isn't others' approval, but your own unwavering presence to yourself. And from that grounded place, you'll attract relationships that reflect back the wholeness you've cultivated within. Here's the hardest truth: you are the common denominator in every betrayal. Not because you deserve it, but because you've been unconsciously inviting it. Maybe you were taught to people please. Maybe you fear being alone. Maybe you don't believe you deserve better. But the moment you take responsibility, not for their actions but for your patterns, everything changes. Betrayal hurts, but it's also a wake-up call. It shows you where you've been blind, where you've been too soft, or where you've been lying to yourself. And if you're willing to learn, it can be the thing that finally forces you to grow. So next time someone betrays you, don't just ask, "Why did they do this?" Ask, "Why did I allow this?" That's where the real power is. If this hit home, watch this next.